Hello, I'm Dylan,
And I'm Keon.
and this is Door Toy Kurt Rust. With that podcast, we're out of time because this week we watched Out of Time,
Written by Catherine Tregenna
directed by Alice Troughton.
and aired on December 17th, 2006. Nice Christmas episode for you.
The Torchwood Christmas special.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite Torchwood episode.
It's about as heartwarming as you might expect from Torchwood.
So not?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. This episode, last week I distinctly remember saying, I already know that next week's episode is going to be better than this one. And,
We were wrong?
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I do think it was better than last week's. It just wasn't, very good.
Yeah, I think this one touched on some really interesting themes and, had a lot of potential. But, going along with that, I feel like it kind of just saw that potential and was like, yeah, I don't want this.
Veered the other way. Swerved out of the way real quick.
There's that meme with the car taking the off-ramp and the straight road is potential for a great, literally genre-defining story, and then the off-ramp is not doing that, and the car is just skirting off the ramp into the not doing that section.
Or that, that meme template where it's the guy looking at another woman and there's a woman looking at him exasperatedly who's implied to be his girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the one where he's looking at mediocrity and greatness is what the hell?
It's times like these when you realize how many meme formats exist for choosing between choice A and choice B, where A is superior and always choosing choice B. There's 7 different meme formats that are the same but different.
Yeah, just got to get in that element of false choice, And
then you realize there's only really 3 different memes, when you boil them down to their topological memessance.
Yeah, when you realize humanity has only ever had a few different thoughts in 4.6 billion years of the universe existing, and us only existing for a fraction of that.
Yeah, born too late to explore the Earth, born too soon to born the cosmos, but born at the right time to explore memes. I feel 99% certain I made that joke on Trust Your Doctor once before, 2 years ago, but...
Well, that itself is a meme. There's that format. It's one of the formats.
Welcome to Trust Your Meme, that meme podcast where we talk about memes. Instead of Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we talk about Torchwood. Anyway, I couldn't find any production information about this, but I do know that Catherine Tregenna wrote The Woman Who Lived in the Stephen Moffat era of Doctor Who. That episode where Maisie Williams plays a Shilder who plays me as a robbery thief, and then she just betrays the Doctor, and then at the end, she's like, oh shoot, turns out that was the wrong move because the guy I was helping out actually wants to summon a demon that's going to take over the world. Or it was aliens, but, in the Doctor Who world, same thing.
Yeah, and that was a pretty solid episode, I think.
Yeah, that was halfway decent. That was halfway decent.
Yeah.
This one, on the other hand, this one just immediately right off the bat just freaking dumps you right in the middle of God even knows what, because the team is just standing on a runway. And first off, I was immediately impressed that this trio who got into this plane and was flying in 1953 England chose an airport to fly to that continues to exist in 2006.
Maybe they were just going to land in an empty field.
And now it's an airport.
Yeah. Maybe they were going to land on somebody's house. And now it's an airport.
like flight simulator that just came out and people are like landing on people's houses. Saw an article that was like the new form of bullying is finding out like, is landing a plane on your bully's house in flight simulator. And I was like, wow, this is like the most dystopian cyberpunk article I've read this year.
Yeah, but this intro, I think, sets up the episode in a way that I think makes the rest of the episode worse, because throughout all of this, I just kept thinking, just kept having this nagging, thought in the back of my mind that told me that, this episode probably could have been a lot better if there was one scene, just one scene, with them in like 1953 establishing who these three people are and them leaving. Because like it just throws you right in, and pretty much right away I did not care whatsoever about this trio.
Yeah, I kind of agree, because the way that it's set up now kind of makes it seem like there will be a mystery in like everyone's like, well, who are these people and what are they doing? But then that's not really the core mystery of the episode, like this first scene seems to imply, because literally the next scene is Jack and the team going, well, you guys are from 1953. Here's your entire backstory. All of your kin is dead, except maybe you, John. I think your kid's still alive, but I don't know. And here's fake passports, and now it doesn't really matter where or why you're here. You just are.
Right, and the three characters, they like display a lot of emotion in this scene. That I don't know, I just personally was not invested in whatsoever, because I just met them like 20 seconds ago.
But again, I think that could have been fine if like the core conceit or mystery was going to be, the mystery was going to be, well, who are these people and what, for what reason are they here? Like, why are they here? Because, I mean, when I saw the preview last week, I really thought that the plot of this episode was going to be them trying to figure out why or how these people arrived from 1953. But immediately we already know that, so I was completely uninvested as soon as Jack was like, you came through a time rift, and I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they take them back to Torchwood. They just commit a flagrant like security violation by taking these people to Torchwood HQ, and then just like, first off, they never once tell them like, don't tell anyone about Torchwood at any point. Like John could just go to his son and be like, so I met these cool people. They work for this government organization called Torchwood. They hunt aliens and stuff. And he would have been fine because no one told him not to.
Well, luckily his son like probably can't even tell his left from his right anymore. But
Yeah, but I mean, then what if the nurse is just like listening in, and she's like, yes, Torchwood. I've been looking for them for 50 years.
Yeah. It is. I guess they just think that, like, people from the 50s probably can do no harm.
That's way wrong.
They also, like, do something that we already talked about, but, like, on I feel like, on any other show, including Doctor Who, people would be like, so, like, tell me about my future, tell me about my, like, descendants, and then they just do. They don't say anything along the lines of like, oh no, we can't do that. No one should know their own future, even if they're living in it, type thing. They just do it. They just go for it.
Yeah, again, they just can commit flagrant security and like timeline violations because they just tell them like, oh yeah, so your family's all probably dead, and also everybody thought your plane went down in the ocean.
Right. One other thing that this little intro sequence of, however many scenes it was made me notice, and that I didn't really enjoy, is that Toshiko,
Toshi.
Yeah. is, I don't know, getting fairly sidelined now. It's been a while since...
She had her episode.
Yeah, it's been a while since her episode.
I actually think
And
Ianto does more than she does in this episode.
yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. I don't, think that just having Tosh, trying hard to just call her Tosh now, but just having her be the person who looks stuff up on the computer every week is a good move. So that's basically what she's been doing for the past 2 or 3 weeks.
I mean, I'm not going to comment on it too much because, all of this will be for moot if, like, even though the preview for next week makes it out like it's going to be Owen's episode, if just all of a sudden we get another, Tosh episode just out of nowhere and she's the focus for like an entire episode, then I'll be like, that's fine then. So
Yeah, I agree. You can't have every character be the focus of every single episode, as as is proven by Ianto.
I mean, Ianto definitely is the unsung hero of this episode. Says he has to drive these three around, introduce them to the modern world, explain like all of this technology to them that they immediately just accept. And that's the other thing is like Jack gives them some money and fake passports, and there's a little scene here where John makes a big fuss about this. We'll skip it for a second to talk about Ianto because Ianto is the one who has to take them to this grocery store, and they like just immediately accept all this technology as if it's just normal. I feel like if you actually took someone from 1953 and then showed them like, look, we have laptops now and supercomputers and like jet engines and sports cars and like automatically opening doors, their like mind would just be so completely shattered that they would have to take like a couple days to like really process all of it.
Well, I don't know if that is necessarily the case, but I think what might be the case is that they accept that they're in the future like very quickly and easily. So because once you've accepted that, you can probably accept the sliding doors thing and the other stuff, even if you think it is mind blowing. But like, yeah, I don't know.
Perhaps. I guess it does become a little easier to accept all that if you accept that you're in the future and you just accept that technology has to advance. It just all reminded me very much of this meme that went viral for like all of a day, where it was a picture of text between two people, and they were like, we're currently chatting about like if you took a Victorian era teenager and showed them something from the modern day, we're talking about things that would kill them, and one of them was like a Four Loko. Like if we give a Four Loko to a Victorian teenager, it would just like kill them.
I don't even know what that is.
So Four Loko is like, okay, well, you better brace yourself. I'm going to look this up to make sure I get it right because it's just so devastatingly, like, devastating. There's a line of alcoholic beverages, and it's like a mix of 4 different drinks.
It's like a pre-mixed drink.
And the original mix of Four Loko included like alcohol and caffeine. And, like, so yeah, that's safe. It was like alcohol, caffeine, and then like taurine. And so like it was basically an alcoholic energy drink.
Yeah, imagine like one of those soda drinking hats where you have like a Red Bull on one side and like I don't know, just
vodka on the other.
Something just like tequila on the other side.
I mean, that's a thing. Like you mix Jägermeister and Red Bull, and you get a Jaeger bomb, and that too is apparently like, not that I've ever tried it. That too is apparently like stop your heart worthy.
Once had a boss who wouldn't drink like beer, like just normal shitty American beer, like Bud Light or whatever, but would drink Jaeger bombs. I was like, all right.
I mean, I don't drink beer, but I wouldn't go as far as to say like my alcohol of choice is Jaeger bombs. Like, Just come home on a Friday night, normal person, crack open a beer, and you just like, well, time to crack open this bottle, this can of Red Bull, and you just make yourself like 3 Jaeger bombs in a row. Like,
Yeah, the way he was telling me about it was like he was at like some party, and he was like he was like, oh, and I wasn't drinking beer because I don't drink beer, so I just had like a couple Jaeger bombs. I was like, oh, okay.
I like how your boss just told you this. Like, what are you supposed to do with this information?
Yeah, this was the guy who would like. Never mind. He was cool. He was really cool.
Well, so John has this fuss where he's like, you can't take away our names. They're the only thing we have left. I'm like, actually, Torchwood can do whatever they want because they're like literally an NGO that has basically unlimited power to operate within Earth. So if Torchwood says your name is Bob, then your name is Bob.
We should probably explain who these three are.
Nah.
Well, all right. We got John. He is a guy.
See, this is exactly why I said no, because one of the defining characteristics of John and Emma. Okay, John is a guy. Emma is like a teenager who's never had sex. That's like her defining characteristic. And Olivia is the one who has the most character because she's a female pilot and she's like one of the best pilots in the world, and she like understands like how engines work, and she's like a genius level mechanic, and like she has actual character, and the rest are like
I think the others have actual character as well. They just don't have like a
backstory.
Yeah, I guess.
We don't know who they were in 53. Well, okay, wait. We do know that John ran a corner store.
Yeah, we know enough about what's her name?
Emma.
Yeah, Emma.
I was a little unclear
like
as to why these three all got on a plane together.
Yeah, I don't think they ever really touch on that, unless we just completely missed it.
We both missed it? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, they're not related in any way, right? They're not family, are they?
No, because John's got a son and a wife. And Emma's just like, I don't know Emma's relation to the other two at all. And Olivia's the pilot, but maybe they were just up for a joyride. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Olivia was just, giving rides for money or whatever.
In her de Havilland.
So yeah, like you said, they go to this store. And I think these scenes are where this episode is at its strongest. The sort of comedic, like, what do these three people from the 50s think of 2006? Or whenever this is taking place.
Yeah, there's like a whole section on the Wikipedia page about like conflicting information on when this is set, because the corresponding Doctor Who episode takes place like a year in the future, 2007, and then like in the episode that they mentioned like a Friday the 29th or something, and that only happens in 2009. So like,
yeah, like with many things in Torchwood, it's complicated.
Yeah, exactly.
So this grocery store was interesting to me because it looked very much like an American grocery store.
Did that shock you?
Yeah, because I've been to grocery stores in the UK, and they look nothing like American grocery stores, but this does.
Maybe you just got to go to this one grocery store in Cardiff. There's one grocery store that they clearly just put Christmas trees in to pretend that they were filming at Christmas when they very obviously filmed it like summer.
Yeah, but that's still pretty realistic because, that's literally what you would do at Christmas is just like put Christmas trees in the store.
I guess, but also like all of the signs would be advertising Christmas things when like all the signs in this episode advertise things that are coming out like mid-July.
So they're fairly impressed with, all the
bananas, with
the consumerism and yeah.
John is particularly impressed by the fact that there's just scantily clad woman on magazine covers. It's like, boy, wait till you discover porn. John says a thing like there are children here, and Ianto's like she's a children's television presenter, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's like whoa. I don't know. I was just like, if there were kids in the store, they probably would be like, oh hey, that's I don't know, Miss Lucy from Sticks and Stones with Miss Lucy, making up a children's show on the spot. And then they'd be like, damn, let's open this up and be like, just suddenly get like an all comprehensive, all comprehensive view of Miss Lucy. And that's the thing, like, there's some sort of unspoken line between what you can show on the magazine cover and what you can't, and lingerie is apparently A-okay, but I don't know.
Well, just is part of this whole deal with this scene of like just how much, I don't know, consumer culture has advanced in like 50 years, and just how unnecessary like a lot of this stuff is, because like Emma is going through the makeup aisle and she picks up something that I don't even know what it is, and she's like, oh, I definitely need this or something like that.
Bananas are very important.
Well, I think I didn't look this up or anything, but I'm pretty sure the bananas thing was like you couldn't really probably get a banana in a store, especially like right after World War II. But like even just the fact that it was in the 50s, you probably couldn't get a banana like in a store. And now
True.
There's like entire bunches of them.
Well, John does mention like part of the reason why he's so shocked at all this is that he just like went through rationing in the war.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you noticed this, but there's a little shot right after this grocery store scene where we see John standing in front of the Millennium Stadium.
Yeah.
So after years, literal years of talking about the Millennium this and the Millennium that, we finally get an on-screen appearance by a Millennium something. The Millennium Stadium.
Not only that, it's kind of a major plot point because John tells Ianto to drop him off there because he just, quote, wants to go check out the stadium, unquote, and then he immediately does not that.
Yeah, I forget what he goes to like investigate about his son or something.
Yeah, he goes to his former house and he asks just some guy who's like walking down the street and is like, hey, did you know like Adam, he used to live here? And the guy's like, no. And I'm like, you probably didn't even ask the neighbor. This guy is probably just some random guy who was walking down the street and then you just accosted him about this random house. Like,
yeah, I feel like people, back in the 50s were more open to, I don't know, just interacting with others. So maybe this has something to do with that. I mean, I say that like I lived in the 50s, but like, I don't know.
Maybe you did.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I don't disagree. There is kind of that theme later on, too, when, like, Gwen takes Emma to the club and then has to give her the talk about, like, having sex with random people because she's like, times have changed since the 50s. People will take advantage of you now.
Right.
Not that they didn't take advantage of people in the 50s, just people, that Gwen specifically talks about how the attitude towards sex has become more like liberal, I guess is the word.
And one of the most awkward scenes that Doctor Who / its spin-offs has ever portrayed.
Honestly, a devastating amount of this episode revolves around sex. And I was like, I'm not sure why that was what you guys decided to go for, but, all right. Because we should mention now, after dropping John off and him going, off to do his own little investigation or whatever, we take Emma and Olivia to the place where they're staying, and Olivia meets up with Owen, and they start flirting, and she's explaining to, like, Owen about her plane and how her plane is called the Sky Gypsy, and I'm like, ooh, you can't name it that anymore. That's not okay.
Yeah. One of the things I liked here, though, which I thought was funny, just because my grandma does this in real life, and she grew up in the 50s, which is that Emma and whatever her name is. What is her name? Oh my god.
What?
Oh, Diane. Yeah,
Diane.
Emma and Diane are like making tea, and they're like ripping the tea bags in two and dumping the tea leaves out. And they see the other two like housemates just using the tea bags as they're intended to be used, and they have this moment of like, oh, yeah.
The invention of disposable tea bags.
Yeah. And my grandma does that. I mean, she knows obviously how to use a tea bag. Oh yeah, but like she still does it that way, I guess, because she didn't grow up with tea bags.
Well, I entertained myself for the next 10 minutes of the episode wondering, like...
what the hell you were even watching?
Well, because Diane explains that she named the plane the Sky Gypsy because she named it after the engine in the plane. And so I looked it up. And this is way more interesting than the Amazon Fun Fact of the Week, which actually comes at the end of the episode, but I'll say it now because it's relevant now. The Amazon X-Ray Fun Fact of the Week was that Diane's plane is a de Havilland DH-89 Dragon Rapide 6. And that's it. That was the only fun fact they had for this whole episode. So that should say something. But anyway, so the name of the engine was the de Havilland Gypsy engine, except it's gypsy with an I, so it's Gipsy, and I was like, that's a really like weird way to spell gypsy. I wonder like what the etymology or the history of the spelling of that specific, spelling of gypsy is. So I spent like 10 minutes Googling the history of the de Havilland Gypsy engine, trying to find out why it was named the Gypsy. And you know what? I didn't find out why, but now I know a lot about de Havilland's history. So, I guess I call that a win.
Yeah, who says Doctor Who isn't an educational show anymore?
Who does say that? I mean, I don't think I've heard anyone say that recently. Apparently there are still like dozens of gypsy engines that are in running condition because they were like apparently some of the best engines, best propeller engines that were ever made. And they basically put de Havilland like on the map. That before that de Havilland just was a nobody, and then all of a sudden they made this amazing engine and this amazing plane, which is the Tiger Moth, and then everyone was like, wow, de Havilland, you're pretty cool. Anyway, de Havilland is defunct now for unrelated reasons.
Maybe we should track one down and put it
restore it?
And put it in the Lotus from The Prisoner whenever we track that down. Check out Inevitable, a classic sci-fi podcast.
It could be a 60-part YouTube series, Trust Your Doctor Builds. And it'll just be Trust Your Doctor Builds this ungodly abomination with a propeller plane engine in a Lotus.
So, we find out now...
I also realized I've been calling Diane Olivia this whole time, and that's because I got her mixed up with the actress who plays Emma, whose name is Olivia.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of, has that vibe of being an Olivia, because, Amelia Earhart, and she's kind of similar. She even mentions Amelia Earhart, and, I don't know, Olivia, it was kind of in the same realm as Amelia, so.
She mentions Amelia being missing, and she's like, do you think she's out there somewhere? Maybe she fell through, like, a time vortex, and I'm like, if you listen to Star Trek Voyager, Amelia Earhart landed on another planet.
I'm sure Doctor Who has some...
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So we find out now that all those hotels that we thought Owen and Gwen were going to were actually just Owen's, like, sweet Bayside, like, pad. Yeah.
Not only that, we see it during the daytime for the first time, and it's not nearly as high up as I had thought it was at night. Yeah. It's actually almost at, like, sea level, which is kind of lame.
Yeah, Owen really had to downgrade when he started working for Torchwood. Maybe this season shows the slow, like... I mean, obviously, this is still, like, probably a $1 million, like, location. But, like, maybe this season shows the gradual downgrade of Owen's place. Like, first we see him in this skyscraper, like, setting. And then we kind of... The next time we see his place, it's like...
He definitely says that he doesn't use this place very often, and he just basically brings chicks there to bang.
Yeah,
He doesn't say it
does
that
say
way,
that,
but he
doesn't
does
he?
tell Diane, he's like, I don't use this place very often, only when I have someone over, and it's like, the implication is clear.
Yeah, got to put those sweet doctor bucks to use somehow.
I mean, don't surgeons make, like, bank? I mean, don't they have, like, lots of debt from medical school, but don't surgeons make, like, bank?
I'm
Because
I'm
isn't it, like, really difficult to do,
I'm
so...
pretty sure if you go into any medical profession, you make six figures like right off the bat, at
Damn.
least. Yeah.
Damn. Diane asks about like all the makeup and skincare products that Owen owns, and he just goes, those are mine." And I'm like, "Those are definitely like Gwen's, right?"
I didn't know what that was supposed to be because I kind of thought that, but then I also had the I was like, wait, is he saying that those are his? Like I didn't know for sure.
Yeah, my first impression was, "Oh, those are Gwen's," and he's just like, he doesn't want Diane to know that he's sleeping with someone else because he's trying to get in her pants. But then I was like, maybe they are just Owens. Like maybe they're just Owens.
Yeah, because I couldn't tell if it was that or if it was like if they were going for this thing of like not too many, but some guys wear makeup like now, whereas in the 50s it would probably be a far lower number.
Well, Owen does then just like blow Diane's mind by being like, you know what? You don't have to have sex to have kids anymore. And she's like, what? And then she's like, why is this relevant? Just, I already texted you this, Keon, but just like everything Owen does in this whole episode to me is the WTF Owen moment of the week.
Yeah, this is, we have the WTF Owen moment of the week. This is like the WTF Owen moment of the season. Like basically from here on out, from where we are in the episode to the end, is basically just Owen, like Owen.
Owen like sleeping with Diane, falling in love with her after knowing her for 24 hours, pulling strings to like try give her things, and then like crying when she leaves.
Owen going through like the full range of human emotions that people experience over a lifetime in like 2 days.
That's the real plot of this episode.
And they couldn't even give Toshiko like another scene from the one she had before. Yet we get all this with Owen. What are you doing, writers? Come on.
Yeah, so Owen and Diane sleep together that night, and Diane has this crazy metaphor where like sex is like almost as good as flying, and she talks about how like sex should be you should both be an active participant in sex, which I don't disagree with. But then she's like, it's just like when you're flying, and I'm like, oh my god, is Diane's entire character just flying? Like, and then like they come into work the next day, and so they clearly set everybody up with like a place to stay, and they come in and Jack's like, Diane didn't come home last night. That's pretty weird. And Owen just goes, I think she got a motel. And it's in my mind it was hilarious because no one really suspected anything. Jack was literally just making a blanket statement like, it's kind of weird that she didn't come home last night, but I'm glad she's safe, because Jack clearly cares about these people actually for once. And Owen then just dropping this information like he would know, and I imagine everyone just going like, Owen, why would you know?
Well, speaking of places to stay, Emma has been reprimanded by John for getting drunk.
Yeah, I don't think Emma can hold her alcohol, so she's like, I only had like 2, but I'm like, yeah, but for you 2 was like drinking straight rubbing alcohol. So this is when I was like, giving like a Victorian teenager Ford Loco would kill them, because I'm like, imagine all the weird alcohol that exists now coming from 1953, and they're just like, oh, this is coconut flavored rum, and like, what? And like, oh, this over here, this is just Russian vodka. You remember how we fought the Russians for a while? Now we drink their drinks.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, speaking of the Victorian era, like that the repression and the veneer of, like, I don't know what you'd call it, like conservatism was, I don't know, I feel like, and this isn't, I don't have anything to back this up, but I feel like it was just a front, for like massive amounts of wild stuff that went on behind the scenes.
I mean, that definitely kind of was the case. Like, I've heard that, but at the same time, like, somehow I don't think they had like absinthe. Well, they might have had absinthe.
Yeah, they probably did, actually.
But I don't think they had like the melon flavored liquor, triple sec, like Amarula, the drink of my people. Like, I don't think all of these existed in the Victorian era. They were probably just getting drunk off of wine and champagne all day.
Yeah, or just whatever, like, crappy mixture that, like, people made in their sinks and stuff, like, if you were
moonshine,
wealthy enough. Yeah.
And they just blind themselves because they don't process it properly. Great.
So we get a nice scene of Reese in the nude, naked, so to speak, unclothed, if you know what I mean.
You say that as if unclothed could mean other things than, like, not clothed.
Yeah, not wearing clothes, if you get my meaning. Because Gwen takes Emma back to her place because Emma doesn't want to be in the, place that they set her up in anymore.
Yeah, because John's just like, not only is he accosting her, he's acting as if he's her dad, and she's like, "You're not my dad."
Yeah, and again, like, we don't even really know what the relationship between these characters is. I mean, I got the impression from this that John knew Emma in some capacity, or maybe that he was even a distant relative. But again, I think we just don't know.
I think they're potentially all just unrelated because the de Havilland Dragon Rapide 6, jeez, that name, was a passenger plane. So I think it's probably possible, if not likely, they were just all taking this plane to somewhere. Like, they were like, oh, I got business in London for, like, what, their own personal reasons, and they all just ended up on the plane together, kind of like Lost.
Mm-hmm.
But then I guess John's just like, I don't know, I kind of got the sense, and I don't know if you got this, that John was like perhaps overexerting his authority because he missed having his son to, like, father.
To boss around. Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
So
yeah, the reason why we see Reese naked is that Gwen doesn't, like, tell him that Emma's there, so he kind of just walking around without clothes on, and Emma sees him. She goes like, "Whoa, like, the hell?"
whoa,
Except it was
dick.
less that and more just, like, screaming.
Yeah, you have to wonder how many moments this could have been stopped, that they went through that it didn't. Like, first off, Gwen comes home with Emma, doesn't tell Reese Emma's staying there. Gwen gets in bed with Reese, doesn't like shake Reese and go, "Hey, we've got a guest, like, I'm putting someone up for the night," doesn't do that. Reese wakes up in the morning, doesn't wake up Gwen while he does this, and then he gets out of bed and just, like, walks around naked. Like, there were so many points this could have like been stopped, and it didn't. And that's just, like, Gwen's fault, really. Like, that's just Gwen's fault.
Yeah, we joke about the 7 sins of Gwen, but, like, yeah, Gwen, not looking so hot for you in this episode. And the preview also spoils, I guess, that next week Reese finds out about the affair.
Yeah, I felt like they were, it was a spoiler, but at the same time, I felt like they were setting it up to find that out by, like, making Reese to be such a good guy, reminding us how good of a guy Reese is in this episode, because he's, Gwen's like, oh, she's my mom's cousin or whatever, and she just needed a place to stay, or my aunt's niece, or whatever the hell Gwen says, which is a blatant lie. And Gwen really shouldn't lie like that. But Reese, credit to Reese, he just takes it in stride, and he's like, well, I'll just have to get a bigger turkey for Christmas then.
Yeah, dumbass.
And then we get like that scene where Reese calls Gwen out and is like, look, it's so easy for you to lie now. Is that part of your job, or have you just always been that way? And like that, I felt was setting up like him finding out that Gwen has been lying about this affair for like weeks on end.
Yeah, definitely. So now we get like the most heartbreaking part of the episode, where John has finally tracked down his son with the help of Jack.
And Tosh.
Yeah, in her one thing that she gets to do per week.
Well, to be fair, she did like sell out Torchwood that week. I mean, Ianto did as well. Like in his episode, both Ianto and Tosh sold Torchwood out the week that they got their episode, which again goes back to what we talked about last week. That like Jack's hiring process is like, or 2 weeks ago, that Jack's hiring process is basically non-existent. It's like if you find Torchwood, you're in Torchwood.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for the episode where we get to find out all these characters' backstories, which I think we looked up was in this season, but I'm not 100% sure about that.
I think it's next season.
Oh, gotcha.
Which I guess spoilers that potentially they survive the finale. Shocking.
So John goes to like the care home that his son is in because his son now has Alzheimer's.
I thought it was dementia.
Alzheimer's is a form of dementia.
Ah.
Yeah.
So same thing then. The one time I can say same thing then, and it's actually true. I actually didn't know that, so who says, Doctor Who and Torchwood weren't educational programs? Anyway.
Yeah, now I'm looking that up because I'm not 100%, I wasn't 100% sure about that. Alzheimer's disease, AD, also referred to simply as Alzheimer's, is a chronic neurodegenerative disease that usually starts slowly and gradually worsens over time. It is the cause of 60 to 70% of cases of dementia. So I guess it's not a form, but it's related. I feel like I should know this because I have like a very close family member with Alzheimer's, but I guess I don't, so...
Well, hey.
Yeah. So yeah, his son is like totally out of it. Clearly has late stage Alzheimer's because he just doesn't know where he is or what's going on. And John is like, "Hey, it's me. It's your son, John." And that was his first mistake because not only because like someone with Alzheimer's doesn't even know like really where they are or what like or who the people they're talking to are. So like, there's no way he's gonna accept this like time travel that has occurred.
I mean, he doesn't even understand like that he's in a care home.
Yeah.
So
he does remember like the football games that they used to watch or whatever, or in translation, soccer.
Yeah, in American, we speak American on this podcast.
Yeah. He does remember that though.
Yeah, and this causes John to cry because they disappeared right before Christmas, and he had bought Adam. His son's name is Adam. The Christmas annual, the soccer/football annual that he wanted for Christmas, and it was hiding in the cupboard under the sink.
Yeah, and he reveals which team won, and that makes his son's day or whatever. This is pretty realistic. People with Alzheimer's tend to remember stuff from their childhood and from the past like really well. It's just short-term / recent memories that they have no ability to retain. Mm-hmm. And that's why a lot of them, like John, think that they're actually like in the past. Because the one time the nurse walks up to him and he's like, "Where's Dad, Mom?" clearly thinking he's a little kid and that's his mom.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. So John is totally devastated, completely heartbroken, and as we learn in a little bit, now suicidal.
Yeah, this goes to a really dark place, like, right
Yeah,
quick
real
here.
quick, but not before. Well, I guess this is actually part of it going to a dark place because now we get some more sex scenes between Owen and whatever
Diane.
Diane. Yes, Diane, exactly.
Yeah, I made a note here somewhere. Okay, wait, I have a couple notes with regards to Owen. First off, we skip the scene where Emma goes to the club, but we'll come back to that. But after that scene, we see Owen, and first my note is, lol, what in the F is Owen doing? And then my next immediate note is, Owen, you better not be oh, wait, never mind.
Well, they have this weird, like, I don't know what you'd call it, date where Owen
Takes her to the top of a parking garage.
yeah, takes her to the top of a parking garage, gifts her a shower curtain. That's what I thought it was for a second.
That's the funniest interpretation of the scene. I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah, and the never mind. Not going to say what I was
This seems
say.
like an apt time for me to tell the story of my journey to the top of a parking garage once. So one day, I was kind of bored. It was like 10:30 at night. And well, actually, no. This was This was a different day. This was mid-afternoon. I'm realizing. There was another time that I had an experience at the top of the same parking garage at 10:30 at night, but that's a tale for another time. In the words of Neverending Story. So I went to the top of this parking garage. It was like mid-afternoon. I was pretty bored, so I walked up the stairs and I got to the top. And no one was there, so I just kind of walked around the top a little bit. I went from corner to corner, and I was coming up on the fourth corner, the final corner, and there was a bean bag, like just a discarded bean bag, like near the corner. And I'm like, that's like weird. Like, why would you discard a bean bag here and not like at the dumpster, which is just at the bottom of the parking garage? Seems like a lot of work. Anyway, I came up to the corner and I was standing there and I looked down, and what should be at my feet but a used condom. And at the time I didn't think that like the beanbag and the condom were connected, but like a couple days later I thought back on it and I'm like, hang on, wait a minute.
Then you realized you were sitting in the beanbag because you took it home, and that's the story of how you got chlamydia.
No, that's whoa.
I don't even know what chlamydia is, to be perfectly honest.
It's an STD.
Yeah, I know it's an STD, but like
Owen's probably got it, given the like amount of woman that he reveals that he's slept with tacitly to Diane.
oh man, most people who are infected with chlamydia have no symptoms. Damn.
Did you just look up chlamydia?
Yes. Oh, never mind. There are plenty of symptoms. Why does Wikipedia start with like, most people who are infected have no symptoms? When symptoms do appear, it can be several weeks after infection. Symptoms
Great.
include, and then like a bunch of like really painful sounding stuff. Why does it start with most people who are infected have no symptoms?
Because maybe both are true. Anyway, I was just reminded of that whole sequence by the sequence of Owen taking Diane to the top of this parking garage. But at the very least, at least Diane asks for them to go back to the apartment before they start, clapping cheeks.
God.
Anyway, so jumping back just a little bit, Gwen takes Emma to the club.
That same club from They Keep Killing Susie.
Yeah, that one where Gwen is probably hated for like
Yeah.
literally taking someone down in the middle of the club with Jack and Owen. But anyway, Emma's like cuddling up with a guy, and then Gwen's like, what are you doing? And then we have this really awkward scene where Gwen explains that like attitudes towards sex are a lot more sex positive now, which is good, but also like men are a lot more open about just taking advantage of women for just sex. Anyway, then in this incredibly awkward scene, Gwen explains how like she's had sex with plenty of guys and how like, you know, most of the time she didn't love them and it was just for the pleasure of it. And I really thought that she was talking about just Owen, but then Diane's like, how many men have you slept with? And then Gwen's like, well, that doesn't matter, you know, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, just really awkward to watch. Just really awkwardly delivered between the actors, which was probably a good acting choice since this is this would be an extremely awkward situation to be in.
And then like Emma is just like, so what you're saying is not that I shouldn't have sex, but that I should just have sex with one special person and just that one person forever. And Gwen's like, no, that's not what I said at all. Yeah, then Gwen reveals that, like... Well, okay, this is also really awkward because Emma's like, do you wish you had waited for Reese? He's like your special person, right? And Gwen just completely neglects to answer the first half of that question, just goes, yes, he's my special person, all right. And I'm like, hang on, but you didn't answer if, like, you regret not waiting. Like, hang on, Gwen. And there's nothing wrong about not regretting. Not waiting? Wow, that's a double negative if I've ever heard one. But, like, at the same time, just the way that Gwen just completely evades the question just makes it seem very suspicious. Oh, yeah, we also skipped the scene where Owen takes Diane to the airport and is like, look, for like 20 quid, you're going to fly this Cessna. And Diane's like, wow, Cessna. You used to fly those back home. And I'm like, hang on, when was Cessna founded? I had to Google. Cessna was founded in like 1918 or something like that. And I was actually incredibly surprised. I didn't realize Cessna was that old of a company.
Yeah, but the flights are like completely booked.
Till the 29th. So
they can't do anything about it. So Diane just has to go use Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Well, so the thing is, like, Diane is upset because the flights that are booked are actually the ones like with an instructor, and Diane is like, well, just let me go up alone. And she's upset that they won't let her go up alone because she had a pilot's license in 1953. But
yeah, that's what prompts Owen to take her on this, you know, romantic parking garage date.
Oh, jeez.
Meanwhile, John is also in a garage, ending his own life.
He steals Ianto's car to do it, too.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, you really gonna do Ianto like that?
Guess so. That's what like Jack says when he walks in the garage, like, he's mad that he stole the car. God.
He's like, come on, man, I know how to get on top of buildings. You could have just asked me. No.
Wow.
Whoa, that's really dark.
Wow.
I don't know. I mean, like, there is something to say about, like, how people who involve other people in their suicide are, like, that's kind of, like, not a cool move, really. And, like, in a way, John is, like, tacitly involving Ianto in, like, his suicide and, like, not even considering, like, it's pretty selfish how he's not even considering how Ianto is probably going to blame himself for, like, leaving his car keys out, or, like, he'll never be able to drive that car again without thinking about how, like, John freaking killed himself in it. Like,
yeah, good point, I guess. Wow. Yeah,
but I mean, John's like in a pretty dark place because he wants to die, because we should probably explain this because it is kind of almost heartbreaking. I mean, it's pretty heartbreaking. John wants to die because his son doesn't even remember who he is. His like wife is dead. Everybody else he knew in life is dead, and he doesn't feel like he has anything to live for.
Right. Jack stops him at first. He's like, you know, you have so much to live for. And he's like, you know what, Jack? Actually, no. And then he explains what you just explained. And Jack is like, well, when you put it that way.
I mean, Jack is like, well, you can like start again. You can like get a new wife or kids, or you can like open a corner store. You can make friends again. Like you can live life. And he's like, well, I don't want to. And Jack's like, well, I can't defuse that argument.
Yeah, he says something along the lines of like, I already did that, been there, done that.
Jack also says because part of the reason why John wants to kill himself is because he wants to be reunited with his wife. And then Jack, sorry, I was thinking of John Barrowman for a second. Jack says, that won't happen. That doesn't happen, in fact. Like, I've died before, and there's nothing. Like, there's nothing there. You won't ever see them again by dying. And so you should choose to live because this is the only time you have now.
But he still decides that he wants to die, and Jack just accepts it. And then we get a scene of interspliced, the suicide interspliced with Diane leaving a note for Owen about how she needs to make this flight.
Well, we should mention that Owen has like fallen in love with her and he's scared of losing her and is showing actual emotions for once.
Yeah.
And not just the like sociopathy he's been.
Yeah. Yeah. So he tries to stop her, but he can't.
But no, she's getting into her de Havilland DH-89 Dragon Rapide 6. Thanks, Amazon.
And that's that. They leave one by one. Diane leaves for Australia. John leaves this mortal world. And Emma just goes to London. She got a job in London.
Yeah. Emma lucks the heck out because she just... Literally, they hire her without even an interview. They're just like, you're hired. And she's like, hell yeah.
I think she implied that she did go to an interview and that they hired her on the spot in the interview, I thought.
Yeah, she implies they hired her without, like, looking at her qualifications, though. Or, like, she implies they basically hired her on the spot without doing any more research into whether or not she's actually qualified for the position or not.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And that's it. That's pretty much how it ends.
I mean, that's not just... That is how it ends. She takes off.
And you just see the plane tailspin out of control and crash in a blaze of
My
light.
final note was something along those lines that, like, she didn't declare a flight plan with, like, the air traffic control tower. So, like, she's on the runway getting ready to take off, and just a freaking Boeing 747 lands and eviscerates her plane. Owen watching on in horror. As the puny 1950s construction of the Sea Gypsy has no chance against Clipper Maiden of the Seas, Pan American's Premier 747.
God.
And that's how it ends.
I saw this video recently of like this plane landing without landing gear. And yeah, it looked pretty big. I don't know if it wasn't like a massive passenger plane or anything like that. I don't even know what kind of plane it was, but yeah.
Well, there was the pretty famous... This was in the early 2000s or maybe late 90s, I think. They call it the Gimli glider. But it was a plane in Canada that lost all propulsion. I don't remember exactly why. Oh, right, it was a fueling It was like oh god, these goddamn Americans. It was a problem with like metric and imperial units, and they put the wrong amount of fuel in because they put it in like the wrong units.
Uh-huh.
And then the plane ran out of propulsion, and then the pilot, who was an experienced glider pilot, like successfully glid the plane down. Oh yeah, that's what happened. And landed the plane on like an abandoned airport that was being used as a raceway, and it was like they called it a miracle for a while because no one died. Like he saved everyone on the plane by doing that. And I just bring it up because it was being used as a raceway, there was like a big, fence down the middle of the runway to divide the two sides because they're using it as a drag strip, and also there was some reason that the landing gear didn't deploy. So
wow,
good times.
So, literally
I own a
went
piece
wrong.
of that airplane, weirdly enough. But yeah, he saved it. The pilot saved everyone. The absolute hero.
Yeah, where's the movie about him, huh? Where's... Just kidding.
Well, we got a movie about Sully, starring Tom Hanks. That movie was unbearably boring. Just gonna say that. Best part of that movie and the most exciting part was when the plane crash happens, and then the rest of the movie is just bureaucracy. Really dull.
So yeah, that's this episode. Again, I think some of what this episode goes for is pretty good, but I don't know. There's just something off about it. There's just something about it that makes me not really enjoy it, and I feel like it has to do with the characters not being established all that well.
Not only that, but to me, there just wasn't any mystery or motivation to watch. It was. I mean, I think they tried to create a compelling character drama, but that requires having compelling characters, and just without knowing any of the backstory between why these characters are here or why they're together or anything about their previous lives. Diana's the one I come closest to caring about because she was established as a famous female pilot, and that was a big thing in those days, and she had a whole backstory in 53, and for Emma it was well, she was a teenager, and then for John it was well, you used to run a corner store, right? And you had a son and a wife, right?
Yeah, there was just not too much reason to care. Maybe we'll have to see how the season, winds down now that we're nearing the end, but perhaps this episode or this slot could have been used better to explore the characters we had already been introduced to, explore the main cast,
Mm-hmm.
Not that the other episodes don't, but maybe that backstory episode could have gone here or something like that, or, give Toshiko another episode or something. Or hell, give Ianto another moment in the sun.
Yeah, there wasn't really any focus on any of the main characters in this episode, which I found kind of curious.
Well, they all sort of had their person that they looked after, right? Jack was looking after John, Gwen was looking after Emma, and Owen was looking after and banging Diane.
Yeah, looking after. And also, the course of this whole episode is 2 days.
Yeah, yeah. Was it 2 days? I thought it was a week or something.
Felt like 2 days to me.
Yeah, it did. I mean, now that you say that, yeah, it does feel like 2 days.
Oh, well.
Yeah, now that we've discussed this, I don't know which one I'd say I prefer, Random Shoes or this one.
I would say this one, just because both of them kind of... I think, okay, let me try and formulate these thoughts that I just had into a coherent sentence. But I feel like part of the reason why this episode, perhaps, it feels a little weaker is because for 2 weeks in a row, they tried to do these character dramas where they investigate these characters who are out of place in some way. And then they put them both back to back. And for that reason, I'd say I probably enjoy this one more, if only because I cared about these characters more than I did about freaking what's his name from last week, just because they tried to glorify this literal stalker last week, and that was just so weird to me. And at least this week, the three characters are not really that bad of people, Not to say Eugene was a bad person, but he's definitely needed help. And the fact that nowhere in that episode did anyone go, well, Eugene just he needed some help because he was like unhealthily obsessed with Gwen.
Yeah, I probably would say that I enjoyed this episode more than the last week's. But the thing about random shoes that I just can't get over and that I just think is amazing is that the entire, like, the climax of the episode is, as we mentioned last week and as I raved about last week, literally it's just a prank, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that is pretty funny. That's it. That's all I had to say on that.
Well, anyway.
I can't say I'm going to, 3 years from now be like, oh man, you remember that one Torchwood episode that was just a paragon of television history, random shoes? Honestly, once we've stopped talking about Torchwood, I'll probably never mention random shoes again, except in the context of how, lol-worthy the conclusion was.
Anyway, some sins were committed in this episode. And some of them were by Gwen, which means we now have to cover them. Thanks, Gwen.
That was a segue and a half.
Thanks for forcing us into this segment every single week. You just can't do otherwise, can you?
Well, so first off, Gwen reveals that she's committed retroactive lust because she slept with an unspecified amount of men, and premarital sex is a big no-no in the Bible.
Yeah. Wow. Not looking good for you, Gwen.
Yeah, not looking good for you, Gwen.
She also definitely commits pride when she has the audacity to think she can take care of Emma.
Oh, yeah. And the audacity to think she could get away with lying about it to Reese when he immediately figures it out because Gwen's mom calls him and he's like, oh, we've got Emma over. And the mom was like, who the hell is Emma? Yeah. Yeah. Nice going, Gwen.
Yeah, that's all I had for her this week.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
As for Jack, he actually, I feel, is pretty distraught this week. A lot happens to him. Mm-hmm. He literally assists this guy in committing suicide and seems pretty shaken up over it.
Yeah, I mean, in that final shot, his final shot of the episode, he looks pretty, shaken about the whole thing.
Yeah, looks pretty close to, bawling his eyes out. Had the sort of gleam, the pre-cry gleam in his eyes. And as for Owen, the madman known as Owen.
Oh boy.
My WTF Owen moment this week was him driving without a seatbelt. Because when he chases after Diane to stop her from flying to Australia, he's not wearing a seatbelt in that car. He drives right up on the runway and just jumps out. No seatbelt involved.
Jeez.
The wild card.
I didn't even notice that. My WTF Owen moment of the week was him taking Diane to a parking garage for a date. I mean, you probably pull that off if you've been dating for a couple months and you would both get a kick out of it, but he's known Diane for maybe 2 days at this point, maybe a day. This is the next night after they arrived, so
Yeah, but see, they didn't have large-scale parking garages in the 50s, so this is all a novel experience for Diane.
That makes it even more WTF Owen, because if his motivation was to show her something she had never seen before, and he's like, this is gonna blow your mind, Diane. And he's like, it's a 5-story parking garage for cars.
Yeah.
Slaps roof of parking garage. This bad boy can hold 200 cars.
literal hundreds of thousands, if not millions of tons of weight.
She gets all dressed up like she's going to a fancy restaurant, and I just felt bad.
Gwen also has kind of a WTF moment this week where she and Reese bring Emma to the club. Like, why the hell did they do that?
I guess
and then
to
they
let
reprimand
loose.
her for... Yeah, what was that?
I don't know.
Yeah, oh no, so like, and then they reprimand her for doing like what people often do at clubs, like...
Yeah, that's kind of, that
just
kind
what
of
was
is
the plan
WTF.
here? Like... Yeah.
Bring her to
Did
the
they
club,
just
and then she does the thing you do at the club, and then you reprimand her for... Wow. Now that you've put it in that light, that context, yeah, WTF, Gwen.
Gwen is really not the hero that we needed Torchwood to have.
Still waiting for her to commit sloth.
I guess she kind of did this episode by not telling Reese that Emma was in the apartment.
You know? Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's probably the closest we've come to sloth so far, but that occurs, like, off-screen, really.
Yeah, true. And it's I can kind of understand that because, one, it's late, and two, Reese was probably sleeping and she just didn't want to wake him up.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that, but perhaps Gwen should have warned Emma that Reese was going to come gallivanting through the house buck naked in the morning.
Yeah, you get off on a technicality this week, Gwen. We're watching like a hawk.
And we're clearly not, because we give so many free passes.
If anyone, like, is checking out our episodes just to see what they're about and, like, just happens to scrub to the 7 Sins of Gwen section, they're going to have a real interesting interpretation of what we're here to discuss.
I don't think there's anybody who's done that, though.
Probably not.
Who's just scrubbed to that section and that section only.
Yeah. Anyway, even if the characters this week didn't quite land, I thought the acting all around was pretty good.
Yeah. I agree.
And that's all down to 3 of Britain's 10 actors.
I like to imagine that maybe Britain does only have 10 actors every week, and they just like shapeshift into the other actors.
Britain, plastic surgery capital of the world.
It's like that Hush villain, Batman villain Hush. Sorry, I said that backward. That Batman villain Hush, who's just like a master plastic surgeon and just changes his own appearance using plastic surgery and makes himself look like Bruce Wayne. Good times.
Huh.
Good times.
Well, you want to take the first actor, or should I dive
I'll take
right
the
in?
first one this week.
All right.
So we've got Louise Delamere as Diana. She's been in Casualty, The Bill, those big programs, and then like Doc Martin, the like 90s Judge Dredd movie, apparently. And then she was also in Poirot. That's all I've got her for that I recognized. She's had quite a big acting career. Her and Mark Lewis Johns both had pretty long acting careers.
Yeah, and that's who we come to next, Mark Lewis Jones as John Ellis. He was in Valhalla, which I've actually seen. No, I have no idea what Valhalla is.
Again, the third week in a row, you've just done that to me, to us. Have you betrayed us? Have you betrayed me?
He was in The Bill. He was in The Knock. I don't know what The Knock is. He was in the Titanic miniseries from the 2000s. He was in Casualty. He was in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I thought I recognized him from somewhere. It has to be from Last Jedi. Like, that has to be where I recognized him from.
Yeah, and he's also been in The Crown, which is that show that the creators of Downton Abbey created like right after Downton Abbey ended. Almost as if they ended Downton Abbey in order to create that show or to start making that show.
Kind of like how like Benioff and Weiss for Game of Thrones, they deny this, but it's pretty obvious this is what they did. They got like a a huge paycheck from Netflix to come create a show for them, and then and then they also got a big paycheck to make like a Star Wars trilogy. So then when HBO was like, so Benioff, Weiss, like what are your plans for season 8 of Game of Thrones? We'll give you like as many episodes as you want. And they're like, 8, take it or leave it. And they're like, but we'll literally pay for like 16 episodes. And they're like, no, 5, take it or leave it. And they're like, okay, 5 it is then. And then like after the backlash towards season 8, their like deal with Disney completely fell apart, and like find that a hilarious twist of irony.
Yeah. Good times in TV writing and production land.
Yeah. And then we have Olivia Hallen as Emma. She's been in Doctors, Casualty, The Bill, and then a show that I wrote down called Chickens, just because I thought that was funny.
Yeah, the live action sequel to Chicken Run.
They are making a sequel to Chicken Run.
I know they are.
Like 16 years after it came out.
They're also
probably more now.
They're also making Space Jam 3, aka Space Jam 2, aka the movie known as Space Jam 2, because the real Space Jam 2 had a memory erasing feature at the end, and nobody remembers it.
I still don't understand how you, of all people, remember it. You who watches the entire credits to every movie.
I closed my eyes during the Men in Black style memory erasure thing. And I was the only one.
It's like how some people insist there was a movie called Shazam that starred Sinbad as a genie. And Sinbad himself has said, like, this movie doesn't exist, and you're probably thinking of the movie Kazam with, who was it, Kobe Bryant or Shaquille O'Neal, one of the, like, famous basketball players, and he plays a genie called Kazam, and he's like, you're probably just, like, mixing that up with me and imagining there was a Shazam movie starring me, Sinbad, as Shazam the genie, and there's not.
The Darude sandstorm of movies. Well, I'm totally out of things to say about this episode.
Yeah, me too. I'm just totally out of things to say, so... If you would like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decorative.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on... What was even the name of this episode?
Out of Time.
Out of Time. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable, find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher, all at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. Next time we're watching Combat, but until then, the end.